Today we are going to be talking about dative prepositions. First off, let's define which prepositions we're talking about today because there is one that I left out on purpose, which is gegenüber. First up we have aus. Aus means out of or from, which is sometimes confused with von, which also means from. The difference between aus and von is relatively easy to say. If you have something that used to be inside of something else, you use aus. If you have something that is not from the inside of something else, then you use von. Von is more of a general from, whereas aus means out of. Außer is the word for out of, except, that is, except. It could also be besides or in addition to. Bei means at, generally speaking, but it can also mean near or with. Mit is with and is only with. Nach is after. It can also mean to, but only whenever you're going to a city or something larger than that. That's when you use nach, or you can use nach with nach Hause. Seit is since, or for a particular amount of time. Von, I already mentioned, is from, and zu is either to or, again, could be at, but the only way that you use zu as at is when it's zu Hause, which is at home. So let's get into the questions here. You are supposed to fill in the blanks with the correct dative preposition from the list, and you may notice that some of the blanks are smaller than others, and that's because I already had the answers written in whenever I had this worksheet made. The first one, Die Frau bringt mein Fahrrad zurück, blank meiner Mutter. The woman brings my bicycle back, blank space, my mother. So is it back out of my mother? Probably not. Back except my mother. This would be like someone brought back your mother, and then in addition to that, you would also bring back a bicycle. It seems a bit odd, but okay. At my mother? Not really. With my mother? Like you lost your mother somehow, and somebody brought back your bicycle, and then your mom happened to be with your bicycle? Probably not. Nach doesn't really work here unless your mother is bigger than a city, which no judgment here. Seit is since, and it's not since your mother. Von is from, so is it bringing back from your mother? Like maybe if your mother took your bicycle and she's bringing it back now and not your mother? I don't know. Anyway, the point is the answer should be here that it's bringing it back to my mother, which is zu meiner Mutter. Blank meinem Geburtstag fühle ich mich nicht älter. So we have something about my birthday, feel I myself not older. So I don't feel older, something my birthday. In this case, we're going to be talking about the birthday as a particular point in time, and therefore after that amount of time, we would say nach. You can also say seit, so since my birthday I don't feel older, or after my birthday I don't feel older. Either one of those would be appropriate for the answer. Nummer 3. Blank der Schule gehe ich blank Hause. Almost said the answer there. So something the school, go I, something home. So here we have 2 times nach, because the first one is after school, meaning that school is a particular time of day, and we're saying after that, I'm going to go somewhere. The somewhere I'm going is Hause, and the only time you use Hause is if it's nach Hause or zu Hause, and since we're going there, we have to, of course, use nach Hause. Nummer 4. Blank der langen Pause habe ich Mathe. Langen Pause is the long break, which is kind of like a lunch break for German schools, and so that's what Pause here is supposed to be. So this one here is going to have to be nach der langen Pause. After the long break, I have math. Now you could be asking, why didn't we use seit here when we could have exchanged it for the other one in number 2? And this one is generally just because you can't say since the long break I have math. It's like saying that ever since you had the long break, somehow you gained math class and you didn't have it before. So instead we're saying nach because that's after and it makes more sense here. Morgen kaufe ich mir einen neuen Computer, blank Best Buy. First of all, don't buy your computer from Best Buy. It's probably not the best deal you can get. Just buy it online. Second of all, here we have tomorrow I buy myself a new computer, something Best Buy. If you were buying something at a particular place, you could use here buy. You could say von Best Buy, but it's generally not as accepted. So buy is at Best Buy, von is from Best Buy. Either one of them technically are correct. I would use buy here. Nummer 6. Morgen muss mein Vater blank Lidl einkaufen. And this one here is the same type of sentence. We have einkaufen, which is to shop, and then morgen, tomorrow, my father has to at Lidl. So again, buy in that sentence. Er mag meine ganze Familie, blank meine Mutter. So he likes my entire family, blank my mother. This one here is he likes my entire family, blank my mother. So out of my mother, except my mother, that would probably make sense. At my mother, with my mother, after my mother, since my mother, none of those really seem to fit. So here we're going to be using außer, so except my mother. He likes everybody in my family except my mother. Der Junge kauft Schokolade, blank seinem Taschengeld. Der Junge is buying, the boy is buying chocolate, something his pocket money, also known as allowance. So in this one, we're going to have to use mit seinem Taschengeld, with his allowance. All right, scrolling down just a little bit here, we have the one we just finished, number 8. That's mit seinem Taschengeld. And then we have was magst du blank dem Spiel? So what are you doing out of the game, from the game, with the game? Probably here using nach, meaning after the game. So what are you doing after the game? Er nimmt mir 3 blank meinen Radiergummis. So he takes away from me 3 something meinen Radiergummis, which are erasers. So in this one, we're going to say he's taking 3 of my erasers, and therefore we need von in that sentence. So because of this word drei here, we have to use drei von meinen Radiergummis. If you just wanted to say he's taking away your erasers, you could just say er nimmt mir meine Radiergummis, which would be in the accusative case because it's the thing being taken. Nummer 11. Wir fahren jedes Wochenende blank meiner Mutter. So we drive every weekend blank my grandmother. So meine Oma. In this one, you can tell by the size of the blank, it has to be zu, but the reason we're saying zu here is because we're going to my grandmother's house, and that's not larger than a city, it's probably in a city, and so we use zu. A lot of people are confused why we use here Oma instead of like something to do with the word house, and just in German, whenever you're saying that you're going to someone's house, you just go to that person, and you don't need the word house. It's just kind of the way that it's phrased. Nummer 12. Blank der zweiten Stunde bin ich müde. So blank the second hour I am tired. It's usually before it, but we're going to use here seit or nach. So since the second hour I am tired, or nach der zweiten Stunde, after the second hour. Either way, it means that you are apparently into third hour of your classes and you are already tired. So either since then or after that. Nummer 13. Ich habe dich blank der Geburtstagsparty nicht gesehen. Ich habe dich, I saw you, and then something about a birthday party, not. So I haven't seen you since the birthday party. That here is seit. Nach doesn't really work here because we're going to say since the birthday party. If you say here after the birthday party, that's like I haven't seen you after the birthday party, which is kind of an odd way to phrase that. Nummer 14. Die Schüler bleiben bis April blank Hause. This one here was supposed to be a COVID-19 joke, but apparently that's not going to work out anymore because it's going all the way through May. But anyway, the point here is zu Hause, which is at home. So the students are staying at home until April. Nummer 15. Mein Bruder wohnt immer noch blank unseren Eltern. My brother lives still something our parents. This one here is by. You could argue that this should be mit, but the difference between mit and by here is very subtle. This is your brother living with your parents, but it is your parents' house, and therefore you have to use by here. If it was like your brother and your parents are somehow sharing rent or something like that, that would be mit. So it's a very subtle difference, but this is he's living at your parents' house, not he's living with your parents. Wir ziehen Fische blank diesem Teich. We are pulling fish, something this pond. So pulling fish out of the pond because, that's how you fish. Wir ziehen Fische aus diesem Teich. The fish used to be in the Teich, and therefore when we use that we're taking them from there, we have to use aus. Meine Verwandten fahren blank dem Zug blank Zürich. So, my relatives are driving something the train, something Zurich. Zurich is in Switzerland, of course. Zug is a mode of transportation. If you use fahren and a mode of transportation, you need mit to kind of combine those two things. So they're driving with the train or they're going by train. If you're going to a city, I already mentioned, that is nach, no matter what you're doing. So you're going to that city, that has to be nach. Meine Verwandten fahren mit dem Zug nach Zürich. Nummer 18. Diesem Haus sind sie alle schon sehr schön. Blank diesem Haus sind sie alle sehr schön. So something this house, they are all very beautiful. I would use here außer meaning except for, so all of these other houses are apparently very beautiful, except for this one house that apparently is probably haunted or something. Dieses Buch ist blank einer Frau geschrieben. This book is blank a woman written. Geschrieben here is the past participle of to write, so this is written, and we want to say this is written by a woman, so we would say here von einer Frau in German. Nummer 20. Fred hat keine Freunde mehr. So something Fred, he has no friends anymore, or no other friends. So in this case we would be using außer again. Außer meaning except for. So except for, or in addition to Fred, he has no other friends. He's the only one he has left, basically. Der Baseballspieler schlägt den Boden blank seiner Hand. The baseball player hits the ground, something his hand. I would use here mit, so the baseball player is hitting the ground with his hand, but that's kind of the only one that really makes any sense here. Dieses Mädchen schläft jede Nacht blank ihrem Teddybär. This girl sleeps every night with her teddy bear. That is, mit ihrem Teddybär. We get up to number 23, Nummer 23. Ich komme blank der Schweiz. I come from Switzerland, aus der Schweiz. Aus meaning out of, as in you used to be in Switzerland and now you are no longer, and therefore you use aus. Nummer 24. Kannst du mir einen Bleistift blank meiner Schultasche holen? Holen is to get, or to grab, basically. So, can you grab me a pencil blank my backpack or my school bag? In this case, we're going to say that it's out of that bag because it used to be in the bag, and so we need here aus meiner Schultasche. And the last one for this particular section, Nummer 25, sie bekommt gute Nachrichten blank dem Arzt, which is she is getting good news, something the doctor. In this case, we're going to say from the doctor, but you're not getting the information directly out of the doctor. It's not like the information used to be in the doctor. I mean, metaphorically, sure, but that's not literally what's going on here, so we're using von. It's a more general way of saying from. Sie bekommt gute Nachrichten von dem Arzt. Alright, after that we have some more complicated things where we have to actually translate English sentences into the German, and so we have to kind of figure out which preposition to use, and also conjugation and word order and cases and all of that stuff. So, Nummer 1. We are driving by car to Chicago. We are driving is only two words in German. We start off with wir, which is we, and then we have to have are driving. Fahren is the verb to drive, and when we add that to wir, it still stays the same as that and just stays fahren. Now we have to have time, manner, place. Time, manner, place would indicate that we would have to have when we're going, which isn't in the sentence, and then how we're getting there, which is by car, and then to where we're going, to Chicago. So we have here mit dem Auto, with the car. That's dem Auto, because this is a neuter noun, and mit is a dative preposition. And then, of course, the only thing left, nach Chicago, to Chicago. Wir fahren mit dem Auto nach Chicago. We are driving by car to Chicago. Besides English, I also speak German. So in this case, we're going to use in addition to English. Besides in German, or in addition to, is außer. I started my sentence in English like that, so I started my sentence in German like that. You do not have to start your sentence with außer, but I did because it was easier for me. So, außer Englisch, and then we have to have our verb in second position, which is what should be next. Our verb here is speak, which in German is, of course, sprechen, and we have to have this to go with the I form, and so we have spreche ich, because your subject always goes after the verb if you have something other than the verb, other than the subject at the beginning of a statement. The only thing left then is German, the direct object of the sentence, which is Deutsch. Auch is also, and if you wanted to, you could also throw in noch. Noch is not necessary for this sentence to make sense, but I personally would phrase it like that. It just flows better. Außer Englisch spreche ich auch noch Deutsch. In addition to English, I also speak German. Nummer 3, my girlfriend greets me with a kiss. So in this one, we start off with my girlfriend, which is meine Freundin. And then we have to figure out what the verb greeting is, which is begrüßen. And to go with the Freundin over here, we have to use the T ending, which is begrüßt. Me, the person being greeted, is not a dative object. This object here is the direct object of the sentence, so it has to be the accusative mich. My girlfriend meets me. And then with, in German, we should recognize by now, is mit. Kiss in German is the word Kuss, which is a masculine noun, der Kuss. And so when we're using this in the dative case, we use einem Kuss. So, meine Freundin begrüßt mich mit einem Kuss. My girlfriend greets me with a kiss. Nummer 4. He has worked at this bank since 2018. Start off with he, which in German is, of course, er. Then has worked. Has worked in English is what we call the present perfect tense. In German, since this is still going on, hence the word since, we have to use here the present tense rather than using the past. So lucky for you guys, you don't have to worry about trying to figure out the past tense. Working in German is the verb arbeiten, and the er, sie, es form, or the he, she, it form, the third person singular, is er arbeitet. Then we have to have time, manner, place. Since time, which would be since 2018, goes first, we have to worry about that one first rather than at this bank, which is the where, which is the place part of that. So we start off with since 2018. Since in German is seit, and then the year 2018. So arbeitet seit 2018. He works since 2018. And you could just leave the sentence like that and it would make sense, but we need to say at this bank. In German, I already mentioned that at is by, so we have here by, followed by this bank. This in German is dieser, because this time it's a feminine noun, so feminine and dative because of by, we have to use dieser. And of course, the German word for bank is Bank. So, arbeitet seit 2018 bei dieser Bank. He works since 2018 at this bank. Number 5. No one besides me wants ice cream, which is very unfortunate. So, we want to know the word for no one, which in German is niemand. Niemand is no one, since no one in my classes would actually know what that word is. Here it is. Besides me wants ice cream. Niemand außer mir, no one besides me. Außer being the besides part, and mir is the me part. And then we have the wants, which is will, to go with niemand over here. Eis is the word for ice cream. Ein is the word for an. So if you want to say like no one besides me wants an ice cream, that would be the way to phrase that if you wanted to throw in an ein word. Nummer 6. My family is driving to the bank. Meine Familie, and they are the ones that are driving. Don't get confused by the fact that you would use the pronoun they when talking about them as a pronoun. Whenever you're using them as my family, they are a singular noun, and so the conjugation here needs to be for the singular form, the RZS form. Driving is the verb fahren, which in the RZS form is irregular and therefore has an umlaut, fährt. Meine Familie fährt. To the bank is the next part, which is, again, we already know that it's a feminine word bank, and it's Bank, die Bank, but to the bank is inside of a city, and therefore zur Bank or zu der Bank. I want to stay home. Well, you don't have any choice, so you're going to have to. Number 7 is I want to stay home. I want in German is ich will, as in ich will. Ich will, dass ihr mich gut seht. To stay home. This would have to have the to stay is going to go at the end of the sentence because here we have the verb bleiben. That's our infinitive that goes with our modal auxiliary here. So we need the word home, which in German we're going to use zu Hause, which is I want to stay at home. So this just says I want at home. Obviously you're going to need the verb to stay, and that is bleiben. Ich will zu Hause bleiben. I want to stay home. Number 8, my family is driving to London. I don't know why your family is driving so often, but they are going to again. My family still is the German word meine Familie. The verb to drive is still fährt, to go with your family. And then we have to London. Since we have to the bank up here and to London, this is the reason that these double up like that. But to London is going to have to use a different preposition since it's a city. So we're going to say nach London. Meine Familie fährt nach London. The doctor is getting a greeting card from his patient. So we have the doctor, which in German is der Arzt. It could also be die Ärztin if you had a female doctor, but it says his patient over here, so that kind of takes out that ambiguity. Is getting. Getting is to receive, and to receive in German is bekommen. To conjugate that to the RZS form, we have der Arzt bekommt. A greeting card is the thing being received, which is eine Glückwunschkarte. Eine Glückwunschkarte from his patient. You don't know the word for a patient, but the word is Patient. It's basically the same word. From is from. So in German we have two options. We have either aus or von. The question is, are we getting this greeting card out of the patient? It's a doctor, so I mean surgically he could remove a card from a patient, but it seems like an odd way to phrase that, so we're going to say instead that he got it from them rather than out of it. Von seinem Patienten. I mentioned earlier that Patient is the word for patient, and that is correct, but in the dative case, and basically every case except for nominative, Patient also requires that you have an en at the end of it, so that's what happened here. Number 10, she has annoyed me since her arrival. Okay. She in German, sie. Annoyed. Annoyed is past tense, but we're not using the past tense in German because we're using since here, so she's continuing to annoy me after that. So we use the verb to annoy, which is nerven. I could have used ärgern here, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated to use, so I used nervt. And then the person that's being annoyed is the direct object. That would be mich. So sie nervt mich. She annoys me. And then we want since in German, which we should know by now is seit. Her arrival, on the other hand, is a word that we may not recognize, and that is Ankunft. Ankunft is a feminine noun, and so her arrival is then ihrer Ankunft. Sie nervt mich seit ihrer Ankunft. Nummer 11. Sie nervt me. This photo is of myself and Cinderella. Why do you have a photo of yourself and Cinderella? I don't know. This, it would be das in this case, because it's kind of an ambiguous that, is a photo. So you're going to use ist ein Foto. And then we want of myself and then Cinderella. Cinderella is not going to change except for the fact that we're going to use the German name. And then of myself, von. Myself is going to have to be a pronoun meaning me, but this would be dative because von. So von mir. Das ist ein Foto von mir. This is a photo of me. Und Cinderella. I could have put Aschenputtel, but let's be honest, you weren't going to write Aschenputtel in the sentence here, so it was just going to be Cinderella. Das ist ein Foto von mir und Cinderella. We have number 12. They have been living together since 3 years, or for 3 years. Since we're using this as a continuation into the present, again, we're going to be using the present tense. We start off with they, which is sie, and then living, which is to live, sie wohnen, and then together, which is zusammen, and then we have since, because we have a particular period of time, seit 3 Jahren, since 3 years ago, and then we have the separable prefix zusammen, together. So, sie wohnen seit 3 Jahren zusammen. They live together for 3 years, or they have been living together for 3 years. He climbs out of bed. Er is the word for he, so we start off there. And then we have climbs, which is steigt in this particular instance. Out of is from, in this case, but he used to be in bed, and therefore we have to use aus. Bed is the word Bett, B-E-T-T, and it's a neuter noun, das Bett, so we use seinem Bett. Er steigt aus seinem Bett. He climbs out of his bed. Nummer 14, I want to go home. We already had the other version of this, which is I want to stay home, but this is I want to go home. So we have ich will, and then we have to have the home part because the to go is going to go at the end of the sentence. But ich will nach Hause, because I want to go home. You don't actually need gehen at the end of the sentence, but if you wanted to, that's where it would go. So ich will nach Hause gehen. I want to go home. He is standing at the door. This one we start off with he, er, standing, steht, and then at the door, which in German is bei der Tür, by being at or near or with. In this case, we're going to be using at, so he's standing at the door by der Tür. That's a feminine noun, so we used der. Hope this helped to clear up some of the confusion that may have been there for the prepositions here with the dative case.